Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Game on Cloud 9 here, and I decided to finally go ahead and make this video that I've been planning to do for a while, probably dating all the way back to since the beginning of this year, because I was actually asked to do this video, explaining why I think Uchiha Obito is actually a pretty good villain. Now, probably a number of you out there, I'd probably say a good chunk of people probably would highly disagree. Probably go on and, question as to why. Probably some of you may already have your mindsets, while watching this video about, Obito's character and feel as though he's just a terrible villain. And you know what? Hey, to each his own. If you feel that way, that's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and break it down factually as to why I think he's a good villain. Now, this video, I am going to share how I feel about him as a villain, but I'm going to give you from a writing standpoint, or, from a writing point of view, why I think he's still at least a pretty good villain. Whether or not you actually enjoy him are two different things. Now, this video may actually end up being a bit long. I'm not 100% sure, because this is probably my third time trying to record this video, because the other times I recorded it, I felt like they were a little bit too long, and I didn't really feel like going through the trouble of trying to edit it and mess with Sony Vegas. So this is what's left in my water. I have this volume right here, so I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, it's in Japanese, so I can't necessarily read it off the page or quote it exactly straight out of the book, but, based on my memory, and if you guys want to go ahead and back check me, if you don't really believe what I'm saying, or you think what I'm saying is kind of false, you're pretty sure you can go ahead and check on any of those manga sites, that's fine. But first off, before I get into the character of Uchiha Obito and get into the pros of his character, the cons of his character, and my thoughts, I want to go ahead and give the definition of a villain. Now, I'm here on the freedictionary.com, and I decided to type in villain, and here's the definitions I got. A wicked person, or wicked or evil person. Another definition you could say is a dramatic or fictional character who is typically at odds with the hero. And another definition is something said to be the cause of a particular trouble or an evil. Now, it's established, I'm pretty sure, or most could agree, it's pretty much factual that Obito, is a villain. Everybody would agree with that, because that's the role that he plays in the story. The only reason why I'm kind of going ahead and kind of reinforcing that is because, there is a difference between an antagonist and a villain. You can be, more times than not, a villain and an antagonist are the same thing. But you can be an antagonist and not be a villain. It's true, that actually can be the case. So, in fact, I think Sasuke is somewhat an example of that. I think Sasuke's, he's kind of played both roles, but Sasuke's been an antagonist, but not necessarily been a villain. So, yeah, anyway, I want to start off by talking about Obito's character prior to leading up to what he actually is now, currently in the story as of chapter 637, because this is the only chapter I can speak on right now. I don't know what's going to happen next week, so if you're reading this, or not reading it, if you're watching this, like, months later, or, heck, even a year later, like, after a certain point, and you're wondering why I'm talking about this, and maybe there's things that happen that maybe I didn't mention in this video, remember to check the freaking date. This is what, as of the 5th of July, because I'm actually doing this at 12 o'clock, a.m. So, alright, anyway, let's just jump into this. Now, Uchiha Obito started off, I'd probably say, being, Uzumaki Naruto, except, before Uzumaki Naruto's around. His whole character is pretty much just like that of Naruto, except a little bit different. And the reason why I say a little bit different is, their beginnings were different, obviously. Naruto, he's, started off being completely lonely. He didn't have anybody. Nobody was there from his parents weren't around. I would say their beginnings are different, but, in terms of the way they act, it's pretty much the same. Obito, we don't really know what happened prior to him entering the academy. His character pretty much starts when it comes down to him going to the academy. This is as far back as we know about Obito. This is, the very beginning, I guess you could say, of what we know of his life. And that, of course, is, when he entered the academy. Now, who you see here is Obito's class. You see Kakashi, you see Guy, and, Obito, from what I can tell from looking at this manga page, is he didn't think he was going to get accepted in the academy. And who hands him the letter? Rin. I know everybody, probably the girl everybody maybe not hates, but, thinks is probably one of the worst things about Obito's character. is Rin. Now, do I think that the whole Rin thing is bad? Well, I'll get into that a little bit later. Now, after the whole, of course, Obito gets accepted to the academy. Obviously, Team Minato, they form, Obito, this is probably years later, because I'm assuming probably when he got accepted to the academy after, he thought he wasn't going to get accepted, and she handed him letters, he's probably like maybe 6 or 7. I'm just making a guess, or maybe like 5 or something. I have no idea, but he looked to be pretty young. And by the time he was a shinobi, he was like 12 or 13. My guess. So, or I don't know exactly when he graduated, but when we actually see Team Minato in action, they were like 12 and 13. So around that time, you see them going through the Chunin exams. They're working as a team, going through missions. And when you go through missions, when you do things such as that, of course, obviously, you're going to grow closer. These are people that you have to protect with your life. They're protecting you with their life. You're going through life and death together. You're spending every waking day together. So generally, you'll think these people are going to become pretty close. Obviously, Obito is going to become close with Kakashi. He's going to become close with Rin. He's going to become close with Minato. Now, the relationship between all the two may be different, but I'm pretty sure generally they all grew close in some shape, way, or form. Now, what I want to skip ahead to is Kakashi Gaiden, because I feel like that tells, in my opinion, a little bit more about Obito's character. It shows it off, and that's actually, the first time we actually found out about Obito, or got to know Obito. That was actually back when I'd probably say everybody liked Obito. And, we saw Obito, of course, he, seemed to, once again, seemed to be the ninja that, kind of like Naruto, rushing the battle, doesn't think, going, like, he's not really that great. He's okay, but, not really that strong. Kakashi being like the Sasuke, the genius. Rin getting oppressed by Kakashi, and, that was pretty much their character. Now, of course, we see, after Rin got kidnapped, Obito wanted to go save Rin. He was determined to do that. He wasn't going to just let her die because this is the girl that he supposedly loved. Now, the biggest thing that I know people have a gripe with is how can Obito love Rin at the age of 13? Now, I can actually say that's, somewhat of a mystery too. The way I look at it, or I, choose to look at it, you can look at it from a different standpoint, is, well, one, this is a shonen. So, I feel like, you can, it doesn't have to be 100% realistic. But two, they did grow up from a young age, and not only that, but these are people that you live in, that you spend every waking moment with, and you're going through life and death missions on a constant basis with. So I don't think it's abnormal for them to grow really close. Just for a basic friendship, I don't know. I feel as though these should be people that Obito is close with if he's spending all this time with him. And it looks like he did. Chunin exams, after the Chunin exams, training missions, a lot of time was spent with these people, even going through a war with these people. We don't know if that was the only mission that Team Minato went through together during that war. So if you're going through all that, I'm pretty darn sure you're going to get close. Now, as far as the end of Obito's life, or the supposed end of his life. Now, everybody remembers Obito through Kakashi's side, he got hit with the boulder, and he's pretty much coming to an end. One of the major things that Obito said before he supposedly died, after they protect Rin, is Kakashi, take care of Rin. He gave Kakashi his eye, and the only request he asked was, Kakashi, please take care of Rin. And, Kakashi said, yeah, I got it. Now, of course, fast forward to later times, and we see, Obito survives. He gets brainwashed by Madara. Well, not necessarily brainwashed, but Madara put certain things in his head about a perfect world, about a world where, there are no losers. Now, if you look at Obito's life, Obito certainly hadn't been winning. It took him forever to become a Chunin. He had to work hard for everything he ever tried to get. And on top of that, even the girl that he cared about, or wanted most, he couldn't obtain. One of his regrets when, the boulder collapsed on us, he wished he could have been with everybody sooner. He wished he could have told Rin how he felt. Now think about that. That's one of your dying, thoughts, or even if it's a near-death experience, that you wish you could tell these people how you feel. and you couldn't say it. So that was what he was mainly concerned about in that cave, is being able to tell Ren that he cared about her, this girl that he grew up with. You know, I mean, granted, he was still growing, but, you know, that he cared about pretty deeply. And whether or not you think he should have, that's what his character felt. That's what he wanted, you know, the most. You know, to act like as if he, you know, shouldn't have cared, you know, to me is, you know, not reasonable, because, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody has different feelings, and if you were to try to look at that character from a realistic standpoint, you know, sometimes people feel the way they feel. Now, jumping ahead to, you know, later on in that flashback, after Obito trained up, I'd probably say a year passed or so. That's just speculation. I don't have any fact that a year passed, but I'm just assuming, based on the fact his hair grew so much, and, you know, he got a lot stronger and rehabilitated, it's probably been like a year or so. You know, Obito found out Kakashi and Ren, you know, they were in trouble. They were about to get attacked. And when he finally showed up to the battlefield, found out that his best friend that he gave his dying wish to, you know, he gave his eye and all that, sacrificed his life, had happened to kill the girl that he loved. Now, some people may say, oh, well, Kakashi didn't mean to. I understand that. But one of the main things, if you notice, that Obito says when that happens is that I can't accept this. I won't accept this. You know, I can't believe this happened. And from that point on, you know, Obito went crazy. He lost his mind. So I would say that was a traumatic event that triggered, you know, Obito, of course, to go crazy. So I would say Obito has mental illness. He's crazy. You know, and when he went back to Madara, he pretty much told Madara, look, you know, I'm going to do everything that you want to do. I want to do the infinite Tsukuyomi. You know, I'll follow your plans. You know, I just want to make a better world. I want to be able to see Ren again. I want to be able to see Kakashi again, but not like this. Pretty much, in short, that's what he was saying. You know, and if I remember correctly, that scene was actually... Hold on. I think right here, actually. Yeah, so right here when Obito said that. Alright. Now that I've established that's Obito's beginning, you know, as far as his descent into darkness. Now, after you saw him go down the dark path, because I really feel as though once he decided he was rejecting everything, he was, you know, wasn't going to accept this as his reality, you know, and that he lost the girl he loved, he pretty much felt like he had lost everything. At that point, he got, you know, he had an accident. He didn't, you know, of course, you know, things wasn't like things were necessarily going his way before that anyway. And the fact that and the thing that he wanted most to be reunite with his team, you know, did not happen. You know, so, I mean, I'm not saying it's the best reason, you know, as far as your descent into darkness, but I definitely don't think it's the worst reason. If people you care about, you know, or if a person that you care about turned on you, and, you know, to kill another person that you supposedly love, and you never got a chance to tell that person how you actually felt about them, you know, that definitely would dig deep to you. That would definitely, I mean, I think it would. You can disagree with me, but I feel as though that's, you know, pretty darn, you know, at least decent reason as to why someone may not necessarily want to be involved with, you know, the life they've been living prior to that. And that's pretty much how the shinobi world works. And I think Obito came to, I guess you could say, a realization that this world, you know, the way it works, you know, people really do lose. Things don't necessarily go the way you want it to. And he's just like, I want to create a perfect world. I don't want this to be the way things go. I'm not going to accept that as my own reality. And that was, I guess, how Toby was born. And of course, then from that point on, Akatsuki started becoming formed. And then, you know, fast forwarding way ahead, where right now in the story where Obito is now supposedly the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. Now, I want to get into Obito's motives, then I'll get into, you know what, let me get into the cons. Now, what I think is actually bad about it, you know, because, I mean, I think the good things are, I think about, you know, I'll get into bad first, yeah. The bad things about Obito's character, I felt as though they could have made Obito darker. I like the fact that he's rejecting reality and stuff, but I felt like his life, Kishimoto could have done a much better deal of actually painting, you know, his life is more twisted, you know, more, you know, like worse things happen to him. Because, I mean, at this point right now, it doesn't seem to me darker than Naruto's. It doesn't seem terrible, but, I mean, Naruto had a pretty dark past himself. He was just shrouded in darkness. Everybody saw him as a monster. To where nobody saw Obito as necessarily a monster. He had pretty much a traumatic event. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to probably get pissed about me making this comparison between this other great villain and Obito, because a lot of people tend not to like Obito. But I would have to say Obito going into the darkness because of Rin is similar, okay, to Sensui and the Chapter Black tape. And the reason why I said it is because both characters had an event happen in front of them that they never saw coming, that they never thought could happen. I mean, it may sound a little strange that Obito thought that, but then someone could also make the same argument for Sensui. But Sensui's an excellent villain, great villain. Probably. I mean, I think he's maybe even in my top 10 villains because I really do like Sensui. But and not to get into the character of Sensui, but both of them had a trigger that made them go off the deep end. It's just the trigger was different. And, I feel as though, I think Obito to be one of the final villains in Naruto, I don't know if he's necessarily the final, but one of the final villains, I definitely think maybe he could have had a darker past. Like, you compare him to, let's say, the character of Pain. Pain, he had, of course, I feel like Pain had a darker past. Pain had, of course, his whole family lost. He lost his best friend. He'd been in times of war, constant war. The Mist Village, of course, made deals with Kasi. They're trying to find peace. Everything felt like it was lost all the time. I mean, Pain, I'm pretty sure most people can agree, Pain went through a lot of shit. And, I think Pain probably went through, and Nagato went through more than Obito. So, now, from a villain standpoint, I think Nagato actually is a better villain than Obito. I think Nagato's an excellent villain, just about his whole character. I mean, I could make a character analysis video on Nagato if anybody wanted me to. I don't know if anybody wants me to, but, I definitely think he's an excellent villain. And I do think he's a better villain than Obito because of the darker past that he had. But that's not all that makes a villain. And as if you guys remember me saying from the beginning of this video, I read the definition of what a villain is. And I'd probably say the definition I like the most is the definition that says something said to be the cause of a particular trouble or an evil. That's what, a villain does, or I would say, the point of a villain. And one of the major things that or a few different major things that Obito has caused in the series is forming the Akatsuki, the Nine-Tailed Fox attack, which pretty much starts the whole thing off, causes destruction throughout the entire village and traumatizes all of the villagers and causes them to look at the main character differently, which of course is causing the main character trouble, which is one of the major things, a dramatic or fictional character who typically is at odds with the hero. So, causing the main character trouble even from the beginning of his life, whether or not he knew about Obito at that time or not, even killing off one of the Hokages indirectly. And more importantly, starting the fourth great Shinobi World War. Now, whether or not you like the war is a different thing, but regardless, this has destroyed countless different things. And being the leader of Akatsuki, in a sense, he has to hold somewhat of responsibility for the different things that the Akatsuki members done. So he's brought apart all this disaster throughout the world, and on top of that, brought back the 10-tailed Jubi. Or the Jubi, or whatever you want to call it. I know it has like many names too. I forgot all the other names, but brought that back. Which has been going on the rampage, killing all these people. He even killed Neji. So, Obito has caused plenty of mischief, plenty of troubles. Again, mainly a lot of times I've seen from people, the main problem everybody has with Obito is the Rin factor. But whether or not you think it's the best thing, I definitely think from a writing standpoint, it's not the, comparing it to a lot of the other villains in Naruto, I think it's not, it's not the best, I would say, motive, but it's not the worst. I mean, if you look at, let's say, Zabuza, I mean, he had a driving force, but I don't think it was necessarily as deep as, let's say, Obito's. And I'm not saying Obito's is as deep as, let's say, Nagato's, but Obito, again, he had a driving force, he had a, what he's caused, or the destruction that he's caused throughout the story is on a much greater and grander scale. Heck, I would even go as far as to even say than Orochimaru. Now, again, I know some people out there are probably complaining because I'm talking about Orochimaru, but let's get into the facts of Orochimaru. Orochimaru, one of the major things that we know about his character, well, just from hearing from Jiraiya, we haven't even heard this from herself or even seen this from herself, but he lost his parents, which that's crazy. That's definitely pretty dark. But we don't know as far as, you know, the ins and outs, how it happened or anything like that. But I mean, kind of caused him, of course, you know, to not want to die, to have immortality, to, you know, want, of course, you know, live forever. You know, and, you know, of course, you know, he started trying to do experimentation, all this crazy stuff in order to, you know, have a complete immoral battle. Now, there's more that I think that we still don't know about Orochimaru's character, but that's in short what Orochimaru's character is. Now, you know, Obito, of course, you know, he wants to reject reality, create a perfect world. You know, so I think both of them are pretty good characters, but, you know, in terms of what both of them have done, the destruction that both of them caused. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I think, I mean, if I remember correctly, Obito was supposed to be involved with the Uchiha incident. He manipulated Sasuke, all that. So, I mean, he's caused way more incidents. You know, way more. And that's, to me, he gets merits for that as a villain. Whether or not his reason, you could take away a little bit from him as a villain and say, you know, he's lacking, you know, in terms of somewhat of his character. But I would have to say, but the trouble he causes still, you know, it definitely, you know, really means something. You can't just take that away. And I really think that the reason why probably a dip to a lot of people was mainly due to the fact of who the masked man was, because a lot of people liked him before the mask came off. Which, you know, that's fine. My point in this video isn't to argue whether or not you should like Obito or not. You know, but my point is to try to paint image that I think Obito is still a pretty great villain. I mean, he's not the best. Again, I'm not saying, if I were to give him, let's say, stars in terms of villainhood, I would have to probably give him an 8. You know, 8 out of 10 or something. I don't think, or maybe, you know what, 7 or 8 out of 10. One, in between there. Or maybe, you know, I'll go with 7.5. I think he's about a 7.5 in terms of being a villain, because he's caused so much destruction, but his reasons could be much better. You know, his you know, motives could be much better. It could be enhanced. It's not the worst. I think it's pretty decent, but, you know, to be the final villain, it could have been a little bit darker. Now, you know, I also like the fact, because people were saying Obito was being manipulated by that of Madara. But, you know, and, you know, which, I mean, to some extent, I guess, you know, yeah, but I mean, I feel like Obito decided to pretty much make this, you know, this Moon's Eye plan his own at some point. And you can clearly see that the fact that he didn't even want to bring Madara back. Remember when Kabuto brought the coffin up? He didn't want to bring Madara back. And on top of that, you know, we even saw in this week's chapter, he managed to overtake and control the Jubi. That's worth a merit, that Obito wasn't backing down. Obito has a strong will. He's stubborn. And I actually really like characters that are really stubborn and strong-willed. I mean, that's why I'm really into, you know, Attack on Titan right now, because Eren Yeager, you know, Eren Yeager for the win. I love the fact that he turned into that Titan creature, you know, or he became a Titan based on how strong his will was, of course, you know, and also the, you know, this probably has something to do with his father as well. But again, I know it's off subject, but the point is, Obito, you know, I mean, he's a strong-willed character. He's just like Naruto. He's the Naruto that went bad. You know, and if you're a person that likes Uzumaki Naruto, if you think that Uzumaki Naruto is a good character, you know, then I feel as though Obito, other than his motives, is pretty much the Naruto that went bad. Therefore, I mean, I would think that you would have to acknowledge that Obito, at the very least, is a, you know, pretty good to decent character, at least in between there. You know, based on the reasons that I gave based on the explanations. Again, a 4th grade shinobi world war. Started the Nine-Tailed Fox attack, somewhat responsible for the Uchiha incident, you know, where the whole massacre happened. Created the Akatsuki, which, you know, and somewhat controlled the Akatsuki and manipulated them, that caused all these different disasters. You know, he recruited all these different people. Well, I'm kind of wondering how he recruited them, but, you know, he recruited these different people. So he's caused so much to the story that even though his motives may be a little skewed to some of you, you know, I feel as though, you know, you can't, you know, he's done so much other stuff, you know, and again, caused a freaking war, you know, to where how can you really, you know, take that away from, you know, his character completely. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say in this video. Like, well, at least all that I can think of right now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a bit long and a bit, you know, winded. I may have rambled a little bit in this video, and, you know, I'm, again, sorry about that, but I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to rate this video. So if you did like it, thumb it up. If you didn't like it, you can thumb it down if you want to, or you can put in the comment section just your thoughts. in general, whether or not you made, thought I made any points, because I wanted to try to make sure I could be as thorough as possible. I mean, I'm kind of talking off the top of my head in this video, but as thorough as possible so that no one would say, Game on Cloud 9, you're not making any sense, you're not making any points, because people like to say that. So I'm trying to make sure I exhaust every point that I can possibly think of right now as to why I think Obito is at least a decent villain. I think he's a great villain, but at least a decent villain. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, and that's the end of this video. So see ya.